To the Tank Annex Building. We're delighted to have you here today and to show you, I guess, this new facility that the New South Wales Government has made available to us for our work in terms of preserving and conserving the rolling stock collection, particularly going forward. The way that today is going to work, we're just going to have a few words here, then we're going to divide you into a number of groups and take you on a walking tour through the building. We will be coming back here, so if you do want to leave anything in this room, please feel free to do so, and then you will be able to collect it on the way back. Just a little bit of background on the Tank Annex. I'm sure many of you have potentially been following this story for us over a long period of time. But for us, getting this collection under cover and out of the weather is probably the single biggest thing we can do to help preserve it moving forward. So we've been talking to the government for quite some time about what the opportunity is to do that, and we're very fortunate that this site has been made available for that purpose. The building itself is directly behind us here, was the Tank Annex, and we still call it the Tank Annex today. Historically a very significant building for the Chullora workshop site. It's where they made tanks during the Second World War. And some of you, in terms of reading up on history, may recall that the railway workshops were largely turned over to the war effort during particularly the Second World War. And did all sorts of things, including making munitions, and in this case, assembling and manufacturing tanks. It never had tracks in it, so when you see it today, and we've got 6 roads of storage in there, it never had that as an original aspect of the building. But indeed today we've been able to adaptively reuse it for the purpose of storing the rolling stock. We've worked with Transport for New South Wales, Tahi, and then indeed the builder, Arenco, to design and, I guess, refurbish the building. Just quickly, some of the major activity that's gone on in terms of refurbishing the building. Not installed full fire protection in the building. We have made the building watertight, so there was a lot of work to, I'm hoping that's going to be true tomorrow, but we have done a lot of work on the roof of the building and the gutters and drainage. Typical box gutter roof, they always leak, and so refurbishment or renewal of the box gutters. We have also taken steps to reduce the amount of natural light in the building. That's particularly for a conservation reason. As you all know, the sun fades things, and anything that's exposed to sunlight for a long period of time will experience degradation because of the fading that UV light creates. So we have taken particular steps to reduce the amount of natural light in the building. All the windows on the north side of the building have been covered over to prevent natural light coming in on that side. And indeed on the big sawtooth roof, which you can see in the photo here, we have enclosed many of the what were previously clear perspex or glass sawtooth that flooded the building with natural light. We've taken out 2 out of 3 of those, again to reduce the amount of natural light that is coming into the building. What else have we done to the building? The building also has, as I said, the heat reflective paint on the roof. What we're trying to do there is steady the amount of temperature and humidity fluctuations that occur in the building, and indeed take the edge off those so that they're much smoother. We do have an exhaust system in there to continue to move air through the building should the humidity either build up, take it out at the top, and indeed try and take the peaks off what is the temperature and humidity fluctuations. I'm sure many of you have experienced problems with mould over the last little while. It's been a particularly bad season for it in Sydney, and so indeed to keep some airflow through the building is desirable for us because that will help prevent mould growth. Leah and the team will talk more about, when we're in the building, some of the other preventative conservation measures we're taking. including fitting dehumidifiers inside some of the carriages to help dry them out and make the environment perhaps more stable in those carriages and prevent aspects of mould or other things growing. What I've got here behind me is a short video which we shot during the refurbishment of the building. It'll give you a good idea of the conditions before, and obviously we'll show you in real life the conditions afterwards. But again, this has been a long project that indeed is now coming to finalisation. I would like to acknowledge and thank some of the team who are here, and I don't know where Ben O'Regan's gone, but some of you will know Ben as our collection relocation manager. He's been specifically tasked with the job of moving the rolling stock from Broadmeadow, LES and some items from Thelmere into the facility. That's been a mammoth job. There are some 45 vehicles in there.
Sorry, just trying to get in.
That's all right, 45 vehicles that we've been moving in, and indeed some have actually literally been moving in this morning. So we still haven't quite completed the task of moving. Let me show this video. We can take a couple of questions and then we'll divide you into three groups and get you into the building.
Get it wrong. It was the prototype. So when Metro Vickers was awarded the contract in the UK to build the 46 class, the railways needed a way to train the crews familiarised with loco operations. We had single decker electrics, and so they took a lot of those components and cobbled one together in the backyard, so they could actually go around to the depots and start training ready for the 46 class operation, rather than waiting for them to be delivered and then commissioned and things like that. So
this is another way here.
It's a one-off. It started its life as 4500. Thank you, 4501. How am I going? Have I dropped anything else yet?
No.
Thank you. But of course, as the diesel electric classes were coming through, they had 40, 43, 44, upper. We need 45. So, and then the full class of electric locos was 46. So it is a one-off. It is a one-off. We've got a few one-offs. And so, from a collection management perspective, you don't want 70 of one thing, because that takes up resources that you could be putting on other things. And you've probably already recognised that we've got in passenger cars a wide variety, but we've got the connection to the mail trains, with the two TAM cars, so the Aurora, the air-conditioned cars that came out in the 40s and had that long life, some of them even through to the 90s. So we've got specific examples that we can use to show the technology changes. We can help researchers understand the materials and methods that we use. And now that we've got them in this conservation store, we reduce the deterioration that was happening to them before, and they're more likely to be available into the future. And that essentially is the point of this store, is that collection management, aiming for as best practice as we can. At Broadmeadow, Transport Heritage was a tenant I guess like we are here. So we have a guaranteed tenancy, but we don't own the property. What happened in Broadmeadow was that other government agencies had an imperative to make different use of the site. The local rumour up there is that there's a lot of vacant land that's been earmarked for housing, and something like South Everley will happen for Broadmeadow Depot. The turntables, the DLE's office and the roundhouse have been heritage listed, so my understanding is that they will be retained and adaptively reused for whatever the community needs. So the question was, what are those white boxes and why are you running power leads to carriages that are so old and they don't have power to them? The answer is we are actually dehumidifying them. So Broadmeadow is a coastal location, not unlike Sydney, but the environment within those that were undercover was not nearly as controlled as here. So I heard Andrew saying before, we've got the paint on the roof to knock the peaks and troughs off the temperature. We keep it closed and we've got a fan system, so when it's more humid or hotter inside, it draws fresh air in. So that helps knock the peaks and troughs off the humidity. Now, I'm sure you're all aware that water and moisture is the enemy of the built environment. So these vehicles, to help preserve and maintain them into the future, we actually have them set up with dehumidifiers to draw that moisture out of that environment. The reason for the tarps is while this whole building isn't completely climate controlled, we're not the Powerhouse Museum, we don't have that sort of funding, what we're doing is creating a microclimate. So we're currently in the process of setting up the dehumidifiers, and you'll see, I was standing on the wrong side, but there's these white pipes, and you'll see hoses that come out of the carriages, and that's to draw the moisture away elsewhere, so that the issues, you know, you'll have mould. I don't know if any of you living on the coast have had issues with mould over the last 10 years. If you can keep the humidity below 45%, mould doesn't grow. So if it doesn't grow, it can't ruin the fabric and materials of the collection items. So it's a relatively cost-effective way of minimising that humidity and therefore preserving the longevity of the item.
What about things like wood borers and termites, anything like that? It's all been checked out, but there's nothing.
Yep.
There's no little critters.
That's it. And as well, it's not set and forget. So heritage conservation management isn't just get it out of the weather and leave it alone. It's observe it, monitor it, undertake activities as you need it. So if you do find an infestation, you get it treated. You actually run a deliberate program of bombing the interior of carriages, just to be sure that you've actually got in front of it and you don't get to the infestation.
So is the plan to eventually say this land, will that ever be restored, or is that?
Would you like to join me on the team that does it?
No, I'd love to.
Yep, okay. So the answer is broadly yes. Why are these things in the collection? So these aren't the operational collection, these aren't the display collection, these are the, I've forgotten the word, the other collection. There's a really good word for it.
Heritage?
Anyway, it'll come to me. So that residual is the word I was looking for. We nearly got there. So they're not operational, they're not displayed, but we've still got them. So that if we had a need to put them on display, if we found a reason to do that, which could be we just want to cycle through the display, create more alternatives for display, then we would restore one of those. And the fact that we've got this facility to keep it and reduce that degradation slide, if you like, means it's cheaper. We've still got it, but any future work is, it's literally available to do that if we choose to. Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. No more? Quick down. They came from Broadmeadow. So that's why I say it's not what you think. These are a group of machine tools that were donated to Transport Heritage and were previously in storage up at Broadmeadow.
Oh, okay.
And with an eye to the future, we didn't want to leave them there and let them go to scrap, because when we get to that project of restoring the HCX or reconstructing one of these unique tenders, we still need the tools.
We'll
Just-
set up a workshop here.
Yeah. So the plan is this building is just storage, and Andrew was mentioning before about stage 2 over in the big shed. So that's the workspace. So the running shed, the restoration area, that'll be the absolute pinnacle if we can get the funding for it.
So what workshop tooling was over there has been,
Oh, it's an empty shell.
it's empty, it's been taken out long ago, has it?
Yeah.
So
And-
they just stripped it of what was
And
the
unfortunately,
railways ran it.
yeah, and look, even this building, as I don't know if I've missed that bit, but you see all the water piping, very pretty copper. That's brand new. All the copper in this building, all the copper in the workshop building was stripped out by thieves
Sold
5 or 6 years ago. Yeah, before they tightened up the scrap rules. So part of the because it cost you so much. Well, you're back to square one in terms of acquiring all that stuff. So we'll keep going this way. Look, I love this little bit because we've got W666, one of, I think, 3 left in the world, and it's here in our collection. How cool is that? I think the other 2 are actually in worse condition. Band 1 is incredibly unique.
Where are they?
In the UK. Yeah, so this is certainly the only one in this end of the world. Band 1, so you can see all that external bracing. So that's some of the preparation work done so it can actually be transported by road. Yeah, so that was 2 of 3.
Are they American? Are they American built?
This one was imported from America as a flat pack. And yeah, that's right. Before they were stolen the idea. And what really amuses me is the story is that they just assemble it as is, and the first station it came to, they found it was 2 inches too wide because the American loading gauge was bigger. Okay, back into the workshop, take a bit out of the middle, and away we go. So, in terms of the historic content of just rolling stock history, we've got one of those in our collection. And again, it doesn't look any great shape, but it's still here. You know, we've got something that we can start with.
So you're saying that?
Carriages through to the special carriages for the Railway Commissioner. And again, we've got it in our collection and it's here.
There's a dog preservation head, won't be stored, put back out.
If there's a need for it, yeah, it could go back
Otherwise
out.
it's kept safe and...
Yep.
Yeah.
Should Toby's be left outside of the carriage, put them together? Should Toby's put on, say, a tarp over it?
Potentially.
Yeah,
if
because
there's
these
space.
ones are more,
That's right.
That's it. That's it. So these were all previously sitting out in the open at Broadmeadow, and yeah, like look, there has been some time pressure to get out of Broadmeadow. So some of the compromises we've had to make are things where they've been landed. We've got them here, and then we can do the next thing. Because they're bogies, we've got this great big roller already. We can bring a cranner crane in and it's not what it seems. So I'm just going to stop here for a quick moment. We're talking about the pipes. So we've been able to use, so there's, we're talking about creating that microclimate within the carriage. And rather than drilling a new hole in it, which we would not do, we've been able to use an existing hole that used to get water out it anyway. To get a breeze up your trousers. So we have had the question of, now that they're in storage, why don't we get in and clean the graffiti off and tidy them up a bit? There's a view within heritage conservation, let me put it differently. Best practice heritage conservation is to do as much as necessary but as little as possible. So if we start scrubbing on walls and we end up back to the bare metal, we've actually done too much and we start losing those layers of the history of the vehicle. So at the moment, unless there's another need, we're content to let that graffiti tell the story of, hey, these were stored out in a highly accessible area at one point. I know it's not always pleasant to look at. Fortunately, there's nothing too offensive on any of these, but it is part of that story of the carriages. It wasn't just a service life. It's actually had a post-service life that has layers of story to it as well. Something I was going to point out here. So, for example, the AK car, in terms of unique vehicles. So that was used to literally on the fly or on the rail test the geometry of the track. And so that was used in the 40s and subsequently to that. Well before electronics. So it was actually set up with mechanical gauges and sensors and things that the track inspectors would be able to follow and plan out their future repairs. Now we still do exactly that today, it's just we've got much fancier technology. But still, here's a great example of everything old is new again because we've always been maintaining track.
So that's a self-drive vehicle?
No, that gets towed behind a loco.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so it would probably go along with a sleeping car because they would do a 2-week tour of a certain district, taking all the recordings. They'd sit down with the local track managers and then work out the future program, where the trouble spots are before they became too serious. outside, that here we've got the contrast between the candy coloured carriage that has been out in the weather that was up Broad Meadow. The other two have had to live inside for the last 30 years. The 8K cars were at Broad Meadow, but they were kept under cover rather than sitting out in the open. So, similar-ish materials, although we've got two wooden bodies versus a steel body. The steel body has clearly deteriorated being exposed to the weather. So just in the same way you would never have a house and not paint it for 50 years, carriages, rail vehicles are the same.
Just going to the question of crane, I can see that the intentions at the moment are not to use this crane for cable.
That's right. Well spotted. That's how we can tell who's paying attention.
But is there intention to use any of these cranes?
There's no need to. Because it is static storage, any activity happens outside. Yeah. So the other point I'll make here, there was a question about getting stuff in and out. These three roads, we can actually access the outside world directly. So unlike the first three, where we've had to set up the tracks and cranes, we've actually using this track here embedded in the ground. We had a bespoke ramp engineered and constructed, where we can actually come from ground level up to this higher level and shunt these in and out. So these three are actually the most accessible roads. So before we were talking about use horizons, that equation breaks down a little bit over here because road 5 is absolute piece of cake to get stuff in and out of, relatively. So exactly. Yeah. So we end up, by the time you extend out to where the bogies are, it's actually straight line. So you just comes over this way. So yeah, within the constraints of the site, we've been able to do a fairly reasonable job. There's been some custom solutions we've had to implement to achieve what we wanted. But I mean, from a heritage perspective for myself, it's an amazing result to be able to stand here and go, it's out of the weather, wow, that's such a leap forward. There are 7 more vehicles right now to come in, and I reckon by the time I finish saying that, there'll be 2 more. And then after that, there's 2 more and the house is full.
They like those, it look like grade 1 still.
That's right, so 7100 goes in next, then there's a 46 class, and then a 41 class, and then a 59 class, full house. There's 2
16 or 08? Was that a goal or not?
It's the one with the boiler plating off it. Oh wait, I think. 16. Road 2, we've got 2 900 class cars to come in, a fridge van. I'll have to check the list, and then something else. That's full. Road 3, I've been asked to keep, so we've got some capacity. Yeah, what happens next?
Yeah, what happens next? It's stuff that's still out there.
Yeah, well, and that's where we need to. We've vacated Broad Meadow, so the primary purpose for my project has been to vacate Broad Meadow and Everleigh of the residual collection. So we've achieved that. We're just sort of finishing that really as we're setting up the enterprise. So now it's fuel. Take a deep breath. What do we do next?
Yeah, it's more like what sheet.
Yeah.
What guarantee is the government given on a long-term lease or whatever of the site?
So Transport Heritage being the designated custodian of the state collection, so these are state collection items. What's the guarantee? It's as guaranteed as Transport Heritage is generally for the operational collection, the static collection. It's not a capital G guarantee, to be sure, but who else would do it? So the state government provides us the funding streams to manage these items that are unusual to them. So a great example of that is, we start talking about track design. If you work in Sydney Trains, you have a design manual that says this is how we build track. tell you, it's not like this. So watching their eyes roll back when we started talking about only has to hold the stuff off the floor, they really struggled with. So I'm trying to put this as politely as I can. Their focus is operational moving people, Sydney Trains, Transport for New South Wales. Heritage stuff is difficult, it's unusual. You know, we've talked about a few of the unique solutions we had to come up with, and so they're not geared up for that. So what's the guarantee? Nothing in life is certain, but right now there's no one else to do it, and there's no one else.
Yeah, probably what I was getting at was, say they say in 5 years' time, oh, we'd love this for housing, get out.
No, that's the answer. Or give me a really good alternative. Give me a really good alternative. Because we are charged with maintaining this collection, and the buses are here and we've got to go. Use the door.